Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike, and today we have some more exciting news from Ignite. I have two experts with me, and I will start with Sravan. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. My name is Sravan Kumar Mera. I'm a product manager with Microsoft Purview. I specifically focus on integrating Microsoft Purview's data security capabilities with Defender XDR product suite.
Wow, so I think we're already getting to the topic, but let's have Maayan please introduce himself as well. Welcome back, Maayan.
Thanks for having me, Heike. So my name is Maayan. I'm part of Defender XDR team. I'm leading the integration of Microsoft security products into our XDR umbrella.
So I have someone from Purview and I have someone from XDR. So at Ignite, Sravan, what was the big announcement that we just made?
So at Ignite, we have announced that Microsoft Insider Risk Management's capabilities will be available natively in Microsoft Defender XDR. This will help users or analysts to understand the threats coming from insiders. Please understand it's not just insiders always. When we use the word insider, we always think we're talking about an employee doing an activity. It can also be an external attacker posing as an insider in your environment and doing activities on your behalf. So insider risk management capabilities can also help you detect that. And having all of this capability natively in XDR in one place for a SOC analyst is what we are announcing at Ignite.
Wow.
It's important to remember, as the analysts watching us now already know, that DLP, data loss prevention, is already integrated into XDR. And now by integrating also IRM into our product, we are bringing much more data security context to the XDR, and we're correlating them together with DLP, as we will show you.
Can you help me understand what are the signals from data loss prevention and what are the signals now from insider risk management? For me, this is all, I'm not from the Purview world, so help me understand.
Sure. We get this question a lot, by the way. So data loss prevention is a capability that will help you to protect and detect risks based on the type of data itself. For example, if there is sensitive data lying in your organization, data loss prevention does the classification, and based on the classification, it'll help you protect the data, stop it from leaving your organization or detect it, right? But insider risk management takes a different perspective to the same risks. Data doesn't move itself. You need a user to move it, in the environment. So insider risk management takes a user pivot. It takes a look at what the user is doing, what happened before, what happened after. It builds a whole context around the user. So you not only know what happened, you will also try to understand why it happened and the whole context around it. So it's the same problem, and it's such a complex problem. We need different perspectives to kind of form a full picture. And DLP and IRM are like two sides of a coin to attack this problem.
Okay, so the one is basically helping to label, classify files, and then
Correct.
the other one is looking at the behavior of the file.
Yeah, it's right. You use the right word there. Behavior is the right word that we can snap to. Let's take an example, right? Let's say email is sent outside the organization, right? That's a single event. Emails are sent outside the organization all the time. How do you know that this is risky compared to a regular email, right? That's sent, because marketing teams share emails with outside the organizations all the time. How do you differentiate between what's risky and what's not? That's where we say context comes in. Like, what did this user do in the past? What are the historic violations? Are they supposed to see this data or not? Is this anomalous or not? All this context is what helps you differentiate between a risky activity from a benign activity. This is what we call the behavioral context, right? That is what IRM focuses on, not just on the file itself.
But, of course, we still come to the point where we bring the signals into XDR. But for me, curiosity, the system needs to learn, right? So what the normal behavior of a user is, and then understands after a certain time that, okay, that user usually doesn't do this, and suddenly that user sends out tons of external emails, even with an attachment that is protected or something like that. Correct. Or is there something that you also need to configure?
There is a bit of configuration involved, but before that, we use a bunch of ML algorithms to kind of figure out what is the user's baseline behavior against their own behavior in the past against their peers. And that's how we try to find some anomalous behavior, saying, this is not in line with what this user has been doing in the past. That is what we offer out of the box. There is also a bit of configuration involved, and we guide the customers to the configurations, to kind of identify what is most optimal for their tenant.
Okay. And these alerts that, something is risky or an abnormal behavior just occurred, these alerts are already available in the Purview portal. So, and now we are bringing these alerts into the Defender portal. And of course, then in the Defender portal or XDR portal, they will enrich an incident, I would assume, and all the other things that people usually use in the XDR portal. So Maayan, will we have, I don't know, will this be included in advanced hunting? And will this be included in the attack path and all these beautiful things that we have?
Exactly, Eike. So I'm really glad that you asked that, because beyond the alert themselves that we are integrating into XDR like we did for another workloads, here we also integrating more signals from IRM that we believe that are very useful in the right context. And please let me show you that.
Yes, please. Let's go into a demo.
So here we are in the incident queue. We can see here the incident of multistage attack involving initial access and exfiltration. These incidents actually start with phishing attack. You can see that the user access link in an email that after that removed after the delivery. And after that, we can see some trial for exfiltration of data outside of the organization. However, I want you to notice that we correlated here DLP alerts together with IRM alerts. And we can see here two new detections, actually, that Insider Risk Management brings into XDR. Sravan, do you want to elaborate a bit about those new detections?
Sure. Let me take an example and explain you how the Purview IRM alerts can show risks that were not available in Microsoft Defender XDR before. So let's dig into this alert that is highlighted here. Before we go into what happened here, let me give you a quick background. With all this new generative AI technology, with copilots, other AI apps, they provide a really powerful way for a user to discover data in the tenant. And this technology can also be abused by attackers. For example, someone can go into Copilot and simply ask, hey, give me a latest update on the financial results or something like that, right? And if the right configurations are not made, it is possible that the Copilot will give a response and it can refer to some of the files underneath.
Wow.
Right? So that is a way where someone can easily find information. And now that they found information in a few minutes, they know exactly what files they need to take outside the organization. So it's like the technology is also being abused to kind of make an attack pattern here. So that is the kind of behavior we are discussing.
Yeah. So, and then who is monitoring now Copilot for these kind of commands and results? Or is this then when Copilot accesses a file and it goes back to Purview file monitoring? I'm confused.
What happens is we have launched another feature at Ignite that gives you governance and discovery controls on the Copilot usages themselves. This alert is just one of those features that is coming into XDR. So with the rise of generative AI technology, we are also improving our offerings to kind of provide users a way to govern this, the way to stop abuse and all these things. And that's exactly what you're seeing in action here. It is from one of those features where we picked up this activity and we kind of generated an alert that gives you details of what exactly transpired here so that you can take a remediation action accordingly.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. See, that part I was missing. So glad I asked. And yeah, you need to think about all these things, right? I mean, there's so many options out there. Yeah.
So you can see the story of what happened here as you move to the right side of the screen. This user has used a few Copilot prompts and they've used it 4 times exactly. We're showing it in a summarized format. And we're also showing in detail what exactly was accessed in each Copilot prompt. Now, let's step back and see the power of this, right? I'm a SOC analyst. In one screen, in a single timeline, I now know that Copilot has been used by the attacker. I know exactly how it's been used. And I also know what are the files that they accessed, all in one click without leaving this portal. And that is the power of this integration that we are bringing together.
Wow. So, and then, I mean, because usually this is our attack story, right? So it goes from the first alert down to the next and the next. So the next ones are our DLP integration. What happened there?
So actually, we see here like a classic correlation and based on the user entity that is part of those alerts. And what we have seen is that the attacker, after accessing the sensitive data, trying to leak that outside of the organization. The first attempt of that is via an email. Because the files was labeled as very confidential, as we see before, DLP actually prevent this leakage outside of the organization. But we still get this alert that notified us that someone tried to exfiltrate highly confidential files outside of the organization. So after this DLP alert and another one that, again, indicate this attempt of exfiltrating data via an email, we are getting to this new IRM alert. Sravan, do you want to elaborate a bit about that?
Thanks, Maayan. So let's see how this attack has proceeded forward. What we've just seen is someone has tried to use Copilot to find the data. They tried to exfiltrate it, but that attempt was blocked. But they don't stop there, right? They keep making more attempts. So there is another IRM alert that is indicating that some sensitive data has leaked outside the organization. So let's follow the same pattern. Let's see what happened here. So this alert is saying that this attacker has done a sequence of activities. I'm going through the right-hand side description of what happened here. They've downgraded the label of a file. They've downloaded that file, and then they've obfuscated it, and then they have exfiltrated this. I just want to draw your perspective on why this is done, actually. Because in the previous attempt, they tried to email a file and it got blocked. Now, the attacker is acting in a sophisticated way. They're trying to remove all the controls that have actually resulted in that block so that they can exfiltrate successfully. They were successful in this case. They managed to exfiltrate because they were managed to bypass some of the controls. But this is one of the power that IRM has today. This is called a sequence detection, where we kind of correlate everything that the user has done, even over a period of multiple days, and put that pattern together and raise an alert. Without this, I don't know how many hours it's going to take for analysts to kind of correlate these behaviors and put the whole story together.
Mm-hmm. And I think, Heike, here it's a great example of how DLP and IRM play together to bring the right context and the right story for the SOC analyst. Because as Sravan said, DLP, focusing more on prevention, right? And DLP successfully prevent the attempt of the attacker to exfiltrate the data outside of the organization. However, IRM, looking at the very specific behavior of this attacker, catch, so to speak, the downgrading of the label and all this sequence, as Sravan described, the attacker not just tried to exfiltrate over an email and we prevented that, but also successfully downgraded the label and make another try of exfiltration of the data.
Absolutely, because this incident contains so many different activities. We have the email and then we have an attachment, but maybe something on the endpoint, and all of this, of course, is the full big picture. And you wouldn't know that then there was also someone trying to get data out of Copilot or like pointer to the files or something like, wow. And I know this is the beginning, of course, of the integration, but are there already some additional nice features in advanced hunting or actions, or also probably the link back to the Purview portal? How is that working? Like if you want to do some activity, some action here?
Yes, we are adding more features to this. It just doesn't stop at what we just talked. If you look at the hunting screen, I want to draw your attention to the left-hand side bottom where we're adding two new tables, the data security behaviors and data security events. These are dedicated tables focused on bringing the exfiltration context from Purview and making it available for the SOC analysts. Both these tables offer this data at different layers of granularity. So let me quickly give you a scenario on how SOC analysts can use these tables to identify more risks. In the example below, we've seen that attacker has compromised a user and uploaded from sensitive files. We always know SOC analysts are curious. The next question they ask is, what else did this attacker do? Which other users did this attacker compromise? For that, they can leverage advanced hunting and specifically these data security behavior tables. A SOC analyst can ask, which other users in my organization are communicating with the same domain that I've seen before? The domain is seen as a signature of the attacker. So that's where a SOC analyst is trying to say, hey, where else is this domain appearing in my tenant? Who else is sending files to this domain? Using that, in this example, they can see that there are 3 more users who are communicating with this domain. So it's likely that there are 3 more users who are compromised by this attacker. So you can start now seeing the footprints of this attack expand throughout the organization through the hunting queries.
So I think this scenario, Heike, is also highlighting the thing that we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, which, although it's called Insider Risk Management, please look, how valuable insights it provides for a regular attack, right? A phishing attack that compromised the user. And now IRM not just, show us what data exactly exfiltrated outside of the organization by this attacker, but also help us to determine the scope of the attack, which lead us, of course, to the next actions of these SOC analysts. For example, suspend those users, reset their password, and so on.
So I want to show you another example on how a data security analyst can do their job on Defender, which is to investigate alerts in the tenant. So let's take a look at a slightly different alert than we have seen before. So what we're looking on the screen is a classic insider risk alert. It says it's intellectual property theft by departing users. It happens all the time, intentionally or unintentionally. There's a very common insider risk scenario. And if you start moving down, all the valuable context is present in Defender. For example, there is a trigger for this policy. There's a trigger for why this alert is generated, which is our HR connector imported a resignation date for this user. This is HR data coming into Purview, getting correlated with other signals that we are seeing on the employee, and put in perspective to build a coherent story, right? And let's move down a little bit. You can also see that this user, before they submitted their resignation, they have sent some external emails with attachments. Now, if you put both of these together, the user context and what happened with the data, you can start seeing a risk profile form here, which indicates that it's an insider risk. And like we've seen before, it's very easy for an analyst to jump into the user entity page to see what else is happening and build a complete 360-degree view of what's happening with the user. So that's how we encourage a data security analyst to visit Defender and do the investigations there to get this additional context.
Wow. So it means that a data analyst would use Purview, of course, to set all the policies and all the settings and everything. But when it comes to investigating a risk, an alert or something, we encourage them to go over to the XDR portal to get the additional insights from other sources.
So the additional insight from the other sources is something that takes a lot of time for them to build, and going over to the XDR portal, they can achieve this in a few clicks. It'll tremendously improve the speed.
Yes. And one of my favorite features, of course, in advanced hunting is also custom detections. So it's, of course you can wait for an alert, but you can also say, okay, this is important to me. And every time something like that happens, I want to get an alert in this severity and whatever, which is probably new to people coming from Purview. I don't know. Again, not my space, but Sravan, do you have something like that where you can say, okay, if these and these kind of events happen in this order, whatever, then please send an alert, like custom detections, we call it in XDR?
Not exactly in the same format on the Purview side. I want to echo on that, which is that's one of the great benefits that we are bringing to the table with this integration. The fact that you can create custom detections on the top of data security logs in XDR, it's not just a value to the SOC analyst, which it anyway is, but now the data security analyst in Purview can also come into XDR, create these custom detections, and start correlating them with incidents. So the way to look at it is, this is a new value for data security that is being created in XDR. And that value benefits not just SOC analysts, but if you are a data security analyst who is investigating these alerts today, there is more reason for you to come to XDR and do these additional cool things on the top.
Wow. So, we have all this information in the incident and in the alert, but some people like analysts, they're also, looking at an entity specifically, like a user or like a device or something. So are we also bringing all these insight directly to, hey, this user does some risky things into the user page?
Yeah, so great point, Heike. As you can see, users are the main focus of IRM, the user behavior. And because of that, we found that bringing in the IRM data into the user page in context is very helpful not just for the SOC analyst, but also for the data security side of the house. And let me show you. So here we can see the user page. And we added actually two things here. The first one, as you can see, is the insider risk severity, which we're highlighting in a very visible part of this user page. A typical scenario where insider risk severity can be very helpful is exactly the compromised user we mentioned before, right? Because in the case we saw before, it was actually a compromised user, but it's not always this way, right? Sometimes it's not just an external attacker, but maybe someone from inside that tried to exfiltrate this data by intention or not. And insider risk severity is actually correlating a lot of signals from IRM and calculate, what is the probability that this specific user is involved inside the risk exploitation activities. And when the analysts see that this specific user have a high insider risk severity, this is one of the hints that the SOC analyst can use to determine whether it's an external attack and compromised user or just an internal threat. So this is one of the features that we add here.
And Sravan, one of my favorite features from the very beginning when I started with Defender for Endpoint was conditional access. So I would assume that the insider risk severity comes from Purview, but can also be used to then lock a user out or do some conditional access policies here?
The answer is yes. The way this works is the insider risk severity is available as a condition in conditional access.
Okay.
It's one of the conditions you can configure in conditional access, and the feature is called adaptive protection. What it does is, as the user does activities, we continuously evaluate risk, and as the risk increases, the protection controls can tighten. So yes, that feature is available. We've recently announced it as generally available, and it's a really cool feature on how you can control the damage or control the attack when it's just starting, before even the response process starts. So that's cool.
And I have lots of questions thinking about attack disruption, where this should feed in, and thinking about response actions, where you then now can, I don't think we call it isolate, but deactivate a user or something. All these things that I don't know if they're already available today, but if not, I'm pretty sure they will be on the roadmap at some point. It's the beginning of this integration for now.
Yeah, exactly, Saike. So it's completely part of the plan. We are just at the beginning. It's worth to mention that there are, right now, a lot of actions around users in XDR. The part of disruption derived by IRM signals will be part of our roadmap, as you mentioned.
Awesome. Yes. Okay. I think this is great. But then I think I want to know, why is that severity high? Do I need to now go back to Purview to understand how that severity became risky? Or can I see what are the different activities, behaviors that made this a risky user?
So, of course, IK, we will never let you leave us, right? So by clicking on the insider risk severity, we are actually getting in a side panel the whole exfiltration activities of this user that actually leading to the specific insider risk severity that you can see in the user page.
Wow. Sravan, so you come from the Purview world, we're from the Defender world, and now all these Purview data, or some of it already coming into the XDR world. It's so cool for our analysts, but what is your persona? You have analysts there over too?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes.
So
they're liking it.
Yeah, of course, they love it. The data security analysts, typically, they spend most of their time in the Purview portal. And like you said, there is a ton of context in the Defender portal that can be very useful, right? For example, I can come into the Defender portal user entity page, and I can understand what Defender is telling about that user, what MDO is telling about that user. Are we seeing any other risky alerts for this user? Analysts are always hungry for data. They want to know more. They want to build a better context. And there's no better place for an analyst to build additional context than Defender, where all this information is available in a single pane of glass. That's why I think it'll be a very productive investigation for an analyst. If they come into Defender, it's like a simple way for them to understand what is happening.
So, and I know we are almost out of time. And one important or two important questions that we hopefully can answer quickly is It's in preview coming out. We need to toggle on something that this is basically turned on. I remember we have a lot of toggles in the Defender settings. And is it easy to configure what are the permissions that I need to actually see the data that is now available in the XDR portal? Like, is this complex to set up, or is this like, no, easy?
It is easy. 2 steps. That's what everyone says, right? But this is easy in this case. 2 steps. There is a toggle on the Purview portal that says, I want to share the data with XDR. You just turn the toggle on, the data will start flowing. The second thing is the existing RBAC in the Purview portal continues. If as an analyst, you already have access to this data in Purview, you don't need to do anything. Otherwise, all you have to do is just assign the right roles and you can get going.
Wow. I love it. This is what I wanted to hear. Okay, so thank you so much. And I'm pretty sure I will have you two come back when I know it's a beginning, it's a journey, and there's already so much, but you have ideas, customers come with ideas, and we will have you back at some time to discuss the new inventions. For now, again, thank you very much. Exciting announcement. And I hope everyone out there learned as much as I did. Thanks, everyone. Bye.